How has a small club in a crowded city full of bigger clubs with a small stadium and low wages managed to become a Premier League mainstay? Because Brentford realized they couldn't win if they were playing the same game as everybody else. So they changed the system, and it's working. In this 3-part series, we're talking about what they've changed, why it works, and why it can't be copied so easily by other clubs. And in this episode, we're going to talk about why they ditched their academy completely. We're going to break that down next here at Pints and Punditry at the Pitchside Pub. Brentford isn't afraid to be different, and it's a good thing because being the same wasn't working. By being different, they have managed to entrench themselves as a Premier League mainstay. How'd they do it? Well, we're breaking down the ways they've broken from tradition in our 3-part series on Brentford. In the first video, we talked about their top-down profiling system that comes from their owner's proprietary player projection system. Check out the link down in the bio for the first episode of this series, and in this episode, we're going to talk about how they completely ditched the academy model in favor of a B team. So we're going to get to that in a second, but before we do, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me so you can follow the channel and check this and all of our other videos out. Get down in the comment section, let me know your thoughts on Brentford and how they're doing what they're doing. You can also leave comments on Twitter and Blue Sky at Pitchside Pub, and check out the website pitchsidepub.com. Brentford didn't just give up on its academy model, it discarded it with intent like a bad contract. In 2016, while other clubs were pouring millions into Category 1 academies, going after recruiting 9-year-olds and upgrading training rooms, Brentford took a different approach. They shut the whole thing down. No under-18s, no scholars, no academy director polishing pitches about pathways, just silence. It was a move that looked radical on the surface, but makes a lot of sense once you look under the hood. They're in a crowded West London market with some of the biggest names in football. It wasn't just that they were getting outspent, they were getting out-leveraged. They didn't have the brand or the money to play the long game, so they simply stopped playing it. Phil Giles, co-director of football at the time, explained it plainly. There was no return on the investment. Spending money on 8, 9, or 10-year-olds who would never make our first team was taking away resources. The aim was, how do we make our first team squad as good as possible on a financial budget? Brentford was pouring resources into players that were never going to make their first team, either because they weren't good enough, or because if they were going to get poached by a bigger, wealthier, more prestigious club. Brentford is a club rooted in efficiency and finding value, and this may not be romantic, but this was not a good value to the club. So Brentford built something else, a B team. Not a reserve side, not a youth team either, more like a parallel program, an internal proving ground for overlooked players aged roughly between 17 and 21. It doesn't compete in an official league, instead it plays a carefully curated schedule of friendlies, lower level clubs, and international teams that Brentford has control over. Brentford designs the fixtures to provide a range of tactical challenges, different tempos, different styles, different roles to accelerate development. It's a control the variables model which fits the club's broader obsession with optimization. You don't wait for the right opportunity to appear on the calendar, you go out and create it. The B team idea was driven by Giles and Rasmus Ankersen, Brentford's former co-director of football and data savant in residence. Ankersen once described the B team as a startup within a startup. It gave Brentford an alternative pipeline, one that they controlled entirely without the restrictions of academy leagues or age-specific structures. If you were good enough and smart enough to adapt, you could move seamlessly into the first team, and if not, you were let go. No sentimentality, no sunk cost, just real quantifiable success. And it is working. Mads Rorselev, who was released by FC Copenhagen in his teens, landed at Brentford with little fanfare. Today he's made over 75 Premier League appearances. When Mikel Damsgaard needed to rebuild his fitness and confidence, it was the B team he used as a controlled runway back into shape. Same thing for Kevin Shea during his return from injury. The B team wasn't just a developmental program, it became a rehabilitation tool, a tactical lab, and squad depth all in one. Most Premier League clubs have U23s in name only. The players are stuck between senior football and nowhere. At Brentford, there's no purgatory. You're either being developed for a reason, or you're moved on. It's a ruthlessly clear philosophy and one that fits the top-down structure of Brentford. You almost don't even notice the B teams there until they get promoted, and they've been there the whole time. They fit in seamlessly. More importantly, the B team isn't some isolated side project. It's embedded in the club's footballing DNA. First-team coaches attend their games. Tactical frameworks are shared. The pressing triggers are the same, the defensive shapes are mirrored, and the set-piece responsibilities match. That way, when a player steps up to the first team, the environment isn't foreign. Thomas Frank has credited this with the ability to call players up seamlessly. It's not just vertical integration, it's cultural. And it works in both directions. First-team players recovering from injury or lacking minutes will often train or play with the B team. There's no stigma because the entire system is built around the idea of development, not status. Everyone's either moving forward together or they're moving out. But the really interesting part is how Brentford uses the B team for talent acquisition. Most clubs buy a ton of youth players and hope a few pan out. Brentford does it a little bit differently. They try to identify players who may already be considered a failure somewhere else for one way or another because they can get them cheap. If a 19-year-old gets released by Ajax or Porto or Chelsea, Brentford wants to know why, and whether there's still value hidden underneath. It's recruitment through rejection, and it's cheaper. Of course, the model isn't infallible. There have been plenty of misses, but it's not about being perfect. It's about continuing to produce a pipeline of talent and doing so at a massively smaller cost than a full academy system. Now, interestingly, they're pivoting again. In 2024, the club announced they'll be reopening a Category 4 academy, focused on older age groups, streamlined and targeted. It's not a full-on return to the old ways, it's a calculated and calibrated expansion. Now with more revenue systems in place and a better brand identity, they can afford to spend more money on the academy, but they're not going to go full bore down to the 9-year-olds again. This is a calculated expense to bring in almost first-team ready talent. There may not be a lot of glory in it, but Brentford's B-team model has quietly produced what dozens of flashy academies have failed to deliver. A clear, consistent pathway from obscurity to Premier League minutes. They're not doing it by betting on high-ceiling wonder kids. They're looking for specific players who have growth in front of them and can buy into their system. It doesn't look like everybody else's academy, but with Brentford, that's sort of the point. What do you think about this? Would you like to see your club adjust their academy to something more replicating Brentford's? Unlike the smart odds system, this could be done by other clubs. Get down in that comment section. Let me know your thoughts. And if you'd like to see this done at your club, you can also leave some comments on Twitter and Blue Sky at Pitchside Pub. While you're at it, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button for me down below so you can follow the channel and check out the website pitchsidepub.com. Thanks as always for joining us here on Pints and Punditry at the Pitchside Pub.